Ako lang yata yung hindi doktor dito. But yes, we are pushing for civil society representation. So I really appreciated Jeff's presentation around the idea of economic dominance in the current policy ecosystem. And we actually face this every day. And the way that we experience this is if a peasant group wants to engage the budget process, their proposal will not be approved unless it follows the budget forms. No? And they need to cross an epistemic boundary in order, and sometimes it's a very, very big valley for them to be able to cross that approval line. So, what is the role then of groups like our group in WeSolve and in People's Budget Coalition, civil society, elites, elites? No, but really people who are trained in certain domains, yung sinabi ni Zara kanina. It is to make sure that this space does not become elite dominated. Right? So the challenge for us who are in this space is to make sure that people who deserve to be in the room are guided, trained. We journey with PH has or part of our coalition or concrete, people don't want to invest in the boring basic work of making data more accessible to the public, so that it lowers the barrier for junior academics, for young people, for students who want to study public policy. And I think, for example, that one of the reasons why we are in this learning crisis is because the previous policy of the Department of Education on learning outcomes has been that of opaqueness, opacity. No? 10% lang, literal, yung kaya nilang i-release na learning outcomes. Pero actually, pwede naman dapat i-release yun. No? And so, I think all of us should try to build funds, build teams that work with different government agencies to release and proactively disclose this data so that more students can be in this network. Mas magiging representative siya of many lived experiences. Fourth is, many of us are in journals or in boards. So the academics here are very influential academics. They sit in many decision-making bodies. I hope that journals can create special categories for practice notes, guidebooks, and lessons learned. Ang experience po namin, mahirap mag-publish kasi feeling nila hindi rigorous yung yung mga ganitang klaseng parang case studies. And I hope if we manage journals, or we can share with each other some opportunities to publish these learnings from the field. Kasi we're very proud of this community knowledge that we gained, no? Because we all work together in order to push for mobility, for budget, for procurement, and for other advocacies. And finally, let's fund this work. Let's jointly fund these initiatives and build institutions that last. I-invite ko po kayo to visit our websites. We work with a civic technology movement who became really angry after the flood control scandal. There are nearly 4,000 members all around the world. And we call ourselves BetterGovPH, pero more endearingly called the Angry Nerds. So the Angry Nerds have been on a mission to basically publish all the public data that we have. So from things like, we now have a DPWH mirror server. We have, from 2016 to 2025, whatever's published in DPWH, we mirror it. We're going to use that to do citizen monitoring of infrastructure projects. We will launch on February 21. Please join. We will try to build satellite capability so that ordinary citizen monitors can look at the progress of certain highways and roads and cross-check flood control. We just had a meeting with Dr. David, who did this with the DNR. We're trying to build those types of capabilities within civil society. Only to say that many of the questions that we have about our country, I think we can struggle together and journey together to find better answers as long as we work together. Yun lang po. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Kenneth. Yung bata daw po yung susunod. Go ahead, Sir Andy.
Sige, I'd like to thank also Doc Jeff and Doc Chan for their two insightful papers this afternoon. So I think their papers actually point out that really the issue really is that policy failure is not really about missing numbers, or missing analytical tools, but really what also Ken talks about, yung missing voices, the weak interaction really between policymakers and researchers and implementers. And of course, in John's paper, yung underdeveloped learning ecosystems on policies. So while the first paper examines how policy analysis is conducted, the second really is also about how we produce and professionalize policy analysis. Like Jeff, I'm also an trained economist as well, and I agree. I totally agree with him. Yung mga the tools that we learn, yung cost-benefit analysis, cost-effectiveness analysis, econometric analysis. I work with a tool called general equilibrium analysis. These are really, while these are necessary for certain types of policy issues, at least these are insufficient, because while these quantitative methods that are really highly effective for aggregation of comparability, they're really ineffective when you look at, or less effective when you look at issues related to power, parang power relationships, voice imbalances, or institutional trust, or looking at social and political context of our different policy issues. And I'd like just to illustrate this with two examples now from the work that's done by some of our researchers, prominently our former presidency, Dr. Babes Orbeta. I think you heard recently though that nagkaroon na parang a year or two ago, we had the reversal of our mother tongue-based multi-language education, no? And I think the policymakers were concerned really with because of the lack of results. And the work done by Dr. Beta showed that while there were mixed, and in some areas even modest positive effects really of learning outcomes using the mother tongue-based approach, using econometric analysis, well, when he did yung process evaluation, it showed really the issue of the lack of adequate training of teachers. No? Nagkaroon na siya ng mga FGDs, no? The teachers and how they implement it. So the lack of adequate training, materials in local languages really were insufficient. These custom practices diverged sharply. So although there was an official policy, iba-iba yung papalang pagka-implement ng policy in different regions. And there were also school-level discretion, no? And maybe also at the same time local political dynamics also as well. So the idea was not an issue really of the policy itself, no? But really the institutional and operational context in which policy is being made. No? So it would not have been uncovered if you just used regular econometric methods, but by really talking to the implementers, no, in doing process evaluation, he was able to uncover this issue. So that's why I think some of our fellows are coming out with a book, no, on implementation issues. No? So the issue is not really the way that the effects were really measured or how they look at the problem, but how it was implemented, and that was only uncovered through non-economic methods. No? And also in the early implementation of the Patawid, so Ken was also talking about the mga 4P mothers, no, yung mga nanays. No? And while early in the analysis, important empirical gains showed that there were positive impacts in terms of, there were issues when the Patawid program was being started, yung issue of local targeting errors, hindi na-identify talaga yung mga beneficiaries, yung compliance burdens also was an issue. And the issues really also of political mediation were not really uncovered when the team of researchers were looking at the effects of policy. So, but field-based governance-oriented studies looked how local discretion actually included or excluded groups. Di ba? May mga makikialam sa pamimili ng beneficiaries. No? How the beneficiaries saw that instead of compliance, they were being the way that maybe that the conditions were being asked were not that enabling, and also how trust in the local implementers affected program legitimacy. Also, I'd like to also point out that early in the work really of looking at many policy experiences or policy evaluation, even our former presidency, Dr. Llanto, even pointed out that really it's not the weakness of policy implementation. It's really not really the absence really of research, but really in the weakness in policy process coordination and the lack of learning loops. So really, I agree with Doc Jeff's paper that you really need different disciplines, in order to address policy problems. And I think universities are already recognizing this, because we have already interdisciplinarity and so on. The paper also of Doc John is also especially important. So the call for epistemic plurality is not really an abstract academic position. And we really need to integrate, as I said earlier, economic reasoning with institutional analysis, political judgment, and contextual knowledge from the ground. And I'd like just to add also to what Ken said earlier about what challenges are. Kasi if public policy education and training is focused now on universities and training institutes, so what can universities do? One, maybe just to add to Ken's list, I think in the universities, kasi I still am on leave as a faculty member sa Ateneo, no? Parang we value more academic theoretical research more, di ba? Kaya di ba yung mga incentives that are given to the faculty, pag nakapag-publish, may financial incentive tayo nakukuha. Pero yung nga, isang isip na matagal na rin ng ilang mga faculty, are there also incentives to address public policy problems? No? We had this faculty member was thinking that maybe we should open an award, no? Maybe what types can solving public policy problems be given support also? Can talk a bit about also trying to be embedded in civil society coalitions, no? Can sabbaticals, faculty sabbaticals can be undertaken also not only in other universities but also in these also conditions. No? So looking also at venues, no, where faculty, academics, public policy experts, practitioners can come together to public policy fora, training workshops that bridge research and practice. No? And also a case, no. Maybe I think yung John's proposal of having a separate public policy field, maybe one way we could do this is also start embedding public policy courses or maybe having specializations, maybe because the way that universities are arranged, no? Although I think more and more we have more interdisciplinary courses or programs, is that we're still focused on disciplines. I think there's some move, no? Also, I think in San Carlos, there's also a discussion now, kasi kumukonti na yung mga economics students nila, to offer a public policy track in their economics program so that students can really be interested in public policy issues. So anyway, just taken together, these two papers actually explain while these persistent gaps actually are undertaken. There's weak interaction, insufficient spaces for informal sense-making, and education systems that emphasize actually tools over judgment and reflexivity. So let me congratulate again Dr. Alapok, Jeff, and John, Dr. Sacramento for the two thoughtful papers, and I look forward to the discussion this afternoon. Maraming salamat.
Hindi. Okay naman, na-admit ko naman na senior na ako. Yan. Oh. They say that when you put two economists in a room together, there'll be chaos, di ba? So, but actually there are three of us. No, pero wala naman. No? So, well, ang training ko before, I have a degree in economics, bachelor's, and then a master's degree in economics. So the bias also. For all these evidence-based, ex ante, ex post, etc. Pero I did my doctoral studies in public administration. Yan. So I transitioned. Yan. So I saw the light. Hindi. So now I have better appreciation of these hard to quantify dimensions, no, social equity, etc. So sabi ko nga, when I teach public policy, no, there are three tests that you have to do, no, to test the policy options. Number one, are they technically correct? No, this is the economic part, the cost benefit, etc. But the second is are they politically viable? Yan. Because, no matter how technically correct your policy recommendations, well, to begin with, they should be, no? They should be. But then, it doesn't follow naman just because they are, that they will happen because of the politics. Now, as mentioned by Dean Fe earlier, no, she talked about political economy, no, something that I really like. That's why I tried to tumawid ng bakod from economics to public administration. And then the third is social responsiveness and desirability. No? So those three. No? So you have to fulfill those three. And so I like the two papers. No? So first, I agree with the proposal, no? As expounded in the paper, that we should not abandon. No? It's not a mutually exclusive proposition. We should not abandon economic methods, but reposition them within that interdisciplinary and reflexive methodological framework. So hindi naman ano yan, either or. So they can coexist, and so therefore there has to be a transition towards more plurality, no? And evidence-based for policy making. So that's my take on the first paper. The second, again, I like these papers because they tend to support and confirm, no, what my experience was and what I'm currently doing right now. One of the proposals in the second paper is to make public policy a distinct field. No? So even in NCPAG, so we are already developing an MPP. No, so apply na kayo, ha? So I had the MPA Curricular Review Committee, and the Faculty Council already approved, and therefore we are now developing, we did a desk research on a benchmarking of sort from universities offering MPA, MPP programs, and these are the what the survey says, no? 50% MPA. So the other 50% MPP. No, but hindi naman lahat 50%. No? So 35% of the other half offers both MPA and MPP. And then 15% are only offering MPP. No? Ayan. So I think there's really a need, no, to focus on policy. You know, if I will summarize my 20 years of doing policy work, advocacy, and reform, yan. So, kasi I specialize on regulation, and so paborito ko yung regulatory capture. So, and we Dr. Pabella, no, the former dean of the School of Econ, wrote a paper on why policy reform is difficult. Yan. Hirap naman talaga. No? So, because no, we ask two questions, no? Tend to summarize all our experiences into two questions. No? Does the regulator know how to regulate? If the answer is yes, well and good. We're in good hands. No? Not with Metrobank. No? So, gusto ko na sana kumanta, we're in good hands. No? Okay. But if the answer is no, don't despair. No, it's not a doomsday scenario. Capacity building. No? So, enrolling natin dito. Tuturuan ni Dean Fe. Yan. Okay. But the harder question is the second. No? Does the regulator want to regulate? Yan. You can also paraphrase it. Does the bureaucracy want to do its work? Yan. So, pwede rin ganon. So if the answer is yes, and the regulator knows how to regulate, again, we're in good hands. If the regulator wants to regulate but doesn't know how to regulate, we can capacity. But if the regulator doesn't want, because of regulatory capture on one hand, no amount of capacity building, no amount of public policy education will make them. Okay. So, on the second point ng paper, no second paper, PPP education beyond bureaucratic space. No? So I had the Center for Policy and Executive Development. So on one hand, we do a policy. On the other hand, we do executive and certificate training programs on public policy, public analysis, reform, and the like. No? So of course, expectedly, the majority of our participants in these training programs are from the government, whether national or local. But here's the but. I see a growing trend. Yan. So, sa aking crystal ball. The data-driven to. Yan, from the list of the participants. I see a growing trend, no, of participants coming from the private sector and also the CSOs. No? So baka naman yung mga kaibigan natin dito sa CSOs magreklamo. Hindi. So that means they are really interested to know. No? And in fact, we also get requests, no, from private companies to really teach their staff on public policy. So, ginagawa na po natin yan. So, meron ba yan? Public policy education beyond bureaucratic space? The answer is yes. And it will be a growing trend. It will be, there'll be an uptrend for that. Okay? So I think my time is up. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you po. Thank you to our panelists. Perhaps we can get a reaction or a response from our presenters. Dr. Jeff, yes, please. And then afterwards, Dr. John.
Again, thank you po dun sa mga comments. Actually, may realization ako about the chapter. Now, I'm planning to add a section kasi baka masyadong bleak nga yung chapter. So, I would actually include yung mga efforts to actually solve the problem. Yung mga sinabi niyo about, universities trying to be more, to establish interdisciplinary centers, tapos yung mga CSO, and of course, yung sa NCPAG, na about the public policy na hiwalay talaga na discipline. So I'm gonna add that. Tapos I just want to answer yung ni Kenneth about how do I in case na ituturo ko siya sa undergrad kasi I'm a believer of experiential learning. And currently in UPLB, we're establishing the UPLB Social Justice Hub. Yung wife ni si Dr. Maria Cristina Alinsonurin. So ngayon, pinapilot test kasi namin yung economics of social justice sa department namin as a special topic. Yung assessments nila is that makikipag talaga sila sa community sa LGU, wherein yung kanilang assessments are actually parang policy notes that na ibibigay nila for the LGU. So, yun, siguro ako, yun yung nakikita ko. Very important kasi talaga kasi nga parang naisip nga namin na, 'di ba, yung universities parang laging world class for whom? Parang nakakalungkot na pag lumabas ka lang ng university, makikita mo yung reality na parang sobrang layo nung nasa loob ng university dun sa nasa labas. So we really wanted our students to somehow, be involved in solving those problems. So yun, experiential learning. So ganun yung naisip ko in case na ituturo yung public policy sa undergrad or kung mag-develop ng course. Ayun. Thank you very much po.
Thank you, Dr. John.
I think I have 2 points for response siguro. The first one is sa point on having public policy electives or specializations in undergraduate. I think UP right now is very supportive of having specialization or majors in the undergraduate program. And I think it can be, we can push for it, especially in other CUs as well. And in our master's program, now we adopted from UPLB, yung Master in Public Affairs program. We already have strategic planning and public policy as its specialization. So yeah, it's an existing endeavor in higher education, having public policy as a specialized course. So we're teaching methods of policy analysis, strategic planning, and so on. And since teaching, paano siya ituturo? Teaching methods of policy analysis. Right now, I'm handling the course on methods of policy analysis, and even me, I'm having a difficult time crafting the syllabus because I don't know where to start. Context specific, there's a different demography, there's a different situation here in Metro Manila and that of Cebu and other parts of the archipelago. So I think the way, if I may interreference it with my experience in Southeast Asian region, they have established, in Thailand, they have established their own idea or understanding of Thai policy styles. The way they approach it, not as a mere replicate of what Western literatures would say, but rather weave it to their experience of how dominant is the authoritarian regime, how dominant is the military forces in the monarchy, and so on. So I think we can also do it here in the Philippines, reflecting on and being more context sensitive, as I have argued in one of my ongoing work. Now, when we talk about policy analysis, teaching public policy, it should be context sensitive. There are different layers of inequalities, of power, knowledge, resources, and not just economic inequalities alone. And I think these are things that needs to be considered. And it should be collaborative as well. So since this is more, I would argue that public policy and doing policy analysis could be more practitioner-centered or oriented. And I think doing the curriculum and designing it could be more collaborative as well. And dialogical, you dialogue with your practitioners. Most of these enrollees in the program are practitioners.
Thank you, Dr. John. Lahat po yata ng dumaan sa NCPAG, merong isang tanong na paulit-ulit siyang tinanong eh. Doon nagsimula, no? Is there Philippine public administration? Tapos meron pang isang article, is there really Philippine? Meron may ganun yata po, no? So I think public policy in the Philippine context might also be going through something like that, dealing with indigenization, localization, context-specific situated. I think that was the word from Dr. John, no, na situated dapat. Pero sige, meron pa po tayong mga tanong. Yes, please go ahead, sir.
Sorry po, nasa sulok ako, no? Sandali. I think I'll just offer siguro some sort of reflection in the present discussion kasi since earlier we were talking about the CSOs. Now, why is it getting difficult for CSOs to be recognized, to be part of the space in the policy analysis? And I somehow related it to the talk of Jeff about the predominance of economics in policy analysis. It turns out if you're going to take a look at the models of public sector reform, so may public administration, there's public management, and there's of course the emergence of public governance. Ang public management came about with ang disciplinary roots niya is neoclassical economics and management, so it's efficiency and equity all the time. And the tendency is for the public sector to borrow private sector practices. And nowhere it is along the lines where you invite CSOs or people who are outside your business to be part of your organizational functioning. And here comes new public governance, where the foundations are organizational sociology, where there is, you create legitimacy in terms of, let's say, the performance of your let's say, unit. No? So we're not looking at them as service inputs, outputs, and so on. So it's service processes, the involvement of citizens. So I think we have to recognize a debate in that. No, may tensions if you just purely rely on economic analysis. So I think a good framing, no, na why is this predominance and in what instances that economics actually failed a good policy analysis in the Philippine context. Just an insight, no, not offering anything. The second thing is that it came to me, it's a lot of discussion, and even at the university at La Salle, at Ateneo, Philippinization. So, ang psychology was advanced. Merong psikolohiyang Filipino. Meron din kasaysayang Filipino. I was trying to take notes. Sa economics, I'm not sure kung meron ba tayong agham pang ekonomiya pang Filipino. Sa atin, I think it would be great as an opportunity for PPPN to emerge with something na we can call our own. Indigenization, Filipinization at its early stages, na may konsepto na malasakit, ng kapwa, ng kalinga, di ba? Public services, na talagang the quality of public services, whether you're rich or poor, is very high at the very beginning. So we conceptualize it na talagang yung nasa laylayan ng lipunan na hindi lang sila bibigyan nito or the policies would take note of their actual welfare conditions. So those kinds of things. We conceptualize it at the same time that we broaden the field. No? So I think it's about time that we don't just compartmentalize in our earlier discussions na we're just pure academics, we're practice-driven. So it has to be conceptualized at the early stages na meron tayong isang strategy to make the field ours. Kasi other countries, yung public finance traditions, Germany has their own Staatswirtschaft and these kinds of things. So I think we can also call our own Filipino origins na there's a great deal of flavor na ito yung problema, contextualize natin. So that's why it worked. Rather than we import something elsewhere na we try to reconfigure with our own values system. No? So just something to reflect.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Others, please, who would have questions or comments. So what has been raised so far is the inclusiveness of public policy as a body of knowledge, and also, I think, the connection between the epistemic and the practitioner side, it's something quite unique to public policy, which needs to be further developed. Yeah. Are there Zoom questions? Are there, we have people raising their hand in Zoom. Sorry. we have Mary Judith Joseph. If you can, would like to, turn on your mic, and we have audio for them.
Okay.
Or you can just send your question via chat, and then we can... hello daw po, Prof. Tuanyo. Ayan. Sige po.
Hello, Doc Basilio. This is Judith. I just participated the public policy, appreciation of public policy last year. So to collate, or I would like to share with you and to collate all the three panels. I am Judith as a physical therapist, private sector, advocating from the grassroots level, from multi-level policy and multi-sectoral collaboration and multi-stakeholder regarding the access of rehabilitation at the grassroots level, especially in Mountain Province. So from there, we were just the last reflection coming from our participant earlier, the integration of academe, practitioner-driven, and conceptualization. So from the conceptualization, I presented the ethnofallacy on House Bill 5132 regarding the physical therapy bill, physical therapy law in Congress. So it was approved and substituted Bill 9162. So from there, you were asking earlier the skills and talents coming from the private sector. So here I am, and presented in the Physical Therapy World Congress regarding the scientific perspective on policy advocacy on health, disability, and physical therapy services through social impact physical therapy programs in 2025. So
Congratulations for that contribution, ma'am. Yeah.
you're welcome. And then there's during the appreciation of public policy, I had a verbal conversation with Dr. Enrico Basilio regarding the public health sector and public policy. So in this case, I would like to attend further learnings or epistemic legacy regarding my privacy.
Oh,
Yeah, and together epistemic legacies of our JUCON's contemporary twin physical therapists. Hindi ko po siya matatapos without the global partnership with my twin, who took the major in kinesiology and gerontology and USA. So it's a global twin partnership.
Salamat po.
Thank
Thank you. And we also would like to invite you and your colleagues to join us in the network as practitioners of their respective fields, no? For
Yes,
public
because,
health. Ayan, oh.
The Congress also noted the
Yeah.
enrichment of my experience coming from the grassroots to the national advocacy. And I would love to hear from you then.
Salamat po, ma'am. Thank you po.
You're
Thank you very
welcome po.
much. Yes, Sahar has a question.
Not necessarily a direct question, pero to add to the muni-muni of the two papers, I don't know even kung which one of the papers. I'm really trying to make sense of how to cross that bridge, no? That Ken is, because malamang it's also relevant to what I'm problematizing in the chapter. I think it's both ways. Parang, is it a semiotics problem or is it a methodological problem? Because on one hand, we encounter on the ground civil society or community, nasasabihin talaga nila na, ma'am kasi parang experience lang to, parang ma'am amin lang to. Yung may ganong language, di ba? Or halimbawa, I see in documentation na there are anecdotes of what's wrong with anecdotes? Yun, parang yun yung semiotic argument ko na parang there is a change from both sides, from government to acknowledge that lived experience is data, and for civil society to be more confident of forwarding that it's not isolated, di ba? Parang it's not isolated. What you're experiencing is very much likely not isolated, na hindi siya fluke. Ano, so that's one. Methodological is also, was in another talk in another day, na parang, so I was talking about yung tacit knowledge, diba, and frenetic knowledge, ganyan-ganyan, yung the ones that ground up, or you know by your profession, diba, institutional knowledge, ganyan-ganyan. Tapos sabi nila, ma'am, ang dami naming alam na ganyan. Diba, kung taga DOH ka, o taga DepEd ka, ganon, sa iba't iba, alam mo yan, diba, parang, alam mo yung mga bagay na ganyan. But how do we translate that into evidence that would inform processes, etc.? So that's the methodological part. No? So for one is to elevate a recognition of the diversity of data and legitimize them. And then second one is to help introduce methodologies to vault in, 'di ba? Kasi parang kung ang hinahanap mo ay evidentiary based that your policymakers will recognize and they like numbers and visualizations and ganon, 'di ba? Parang there is actually a way to codify the plurality of experience such that it speaks to what do you want to see? What will convince you that these things are legit, no? So parang, I think it merits, baka sa'yo, di ba malilipat ka na ng department? Joke lang. Di ba joke lang. Pero I don't know which paper, but I think, yun, parang some nudge into, it's an acknowledgement both ways of what is the diversity of the knowledge that, and the methodological entry point. I think the methodological is definitely yours.
Thank you. Kiji?
I think this is also a broader reflection and hindi siya particular to the papers, but more so kind of a response to Ken's provocation. Because I don't think it's just semiotic or methods. I think it's just a starting point. Because one of the observations, at least in some of my teams doing research here in the Philippines, is that there's a tendency to have a deficit mindset that ang starting point, it's going to be bad. Ang starting point is like, we need to find what's wrong. But we never really found that starting point that, where are we really good at? And yun yung, for example, ang sharing lang in terms of when we were doing research on migration is that in all other countries, walang ganitong klaseng program, walang ganitong klaseng approach, yung ability to protect migrants, walang ganon, wala sa Nepal, and in any other context na naaral namin, wala. But when we do the research here, yung discourse is actually, ang pangit nito, dapat hindi natin gawin to. So parang, I think from that angle, it really made me realize na we have a very different starting point, and it made me ask the question, are we approaching things from a normative standpoint, and where do these norms come from? So I think thinking about indigenizing, thinking about the Philippine approach, we changed the norms. Na ano ba yung expectation natin? Ito yung aspiration natin, rather than like a hidden norm na potentially colonial, potentially Western. Now, if we always compare ourselves to, Americans, will always be bad, right? So parang it's just different. So I think yung approaching the difference, hindi natin pa nagagawa. And I think shifting that starting point na it's going to be bad, it's going to be always in deficit, will probably foster that kind of thinking of like, what's good here? So I think it just gives us a bit of a different idea on where to go, instead of like trying to always identify, be evaluative, and ito yung mga kulang. Shifting the lens of ito actually yung meron tayo na wala sa iba. So I think just a kind of a reflection on shifting a starting point in how we approach public policy making.
Thank you, Kiji. Perhaps, yes, we could do Dean Fe, and then one more, just being conscious about the time. How many questions can we still accommodate? Sorry, 10 minutes. So probably two or...
Wala nang time.
Hindi, meron pa po.
Okay. first point, a while ago I asked everyone, the first panel to contextualize yung knowledge, the typology of knowledge, expert knowledge in policy analysis. No? That is very important because what is the use of evidences in economics if that is not contextualized in the policy system that we have? Yung differences na sinasabi ni Kiji and yung sabi ni Noe, I don't know how to start doing the syllabus for the method scores. Kasi if you are educated in outside, no, and kasi masyado silang yung data driven, yung mga ganon. Kasi when I was doing one paper for policy design, ang sabi sa akin, if you can do a meta-analysis of the data, because I was correlating in competitiveness as indicated by the CMIC, the competitive Citizen Municipalities Competitiveness Index, and the preponderance of parang poverty in areas where competition thrives, no? Sabi niya, you do a meta-analysis gano'n. But yun nga, in the Philippines, we don't have, kanina yung nga, halos lahat ng data from government agencies are PDF, no? So, paano mo pang ma-analyze siya? So, parang gano'n. And then yung parang trained in foreign schools of public policy, palaging ina-emphasize yung statistics, benefit cost analysis, ganyan. But sa Pilipinas kasi, ang pagtuturo natin ng methods ay you include kwentos, stories, the lived experiences, the narratives, and the narrative cost-benefit analysis. Kaya ang doon, kagaya nung doon sa Chikadang project, pag benefit cost analysis na engineering at saka yung technical, talagang gusto nila yung isang area kasi that will give more benefit than cost. Pero at what expense? Diba? So yung mga ganun. So ang natin, if we are to spread the gospel of public policy and policy analysis, magandang i-contextualize natin sa Philippine setting. No? And yun nga, hindi naman sa pagmamayabang, sa NCPAG kasi, we have embraced the discipline of public policy, not just a theoretical academic field, but a field that has link with the real world. Kaya nga yung mga offerings namin, hindi lang siya mga methods, theoretical, ganyan. We also do capacity building for the government, for the other sectors of the society. So dapat ganun yung pagtingin natin sa public policy and policy analysis. It's not yung academic practitioners may divide siya or may dichotomy. It's an integration of the academic and the academic discipline and the practitioners' aspirations. No? So hindi siya ganun. Tapos nga, ang policy analysis is beyond economics. But we are, ang dami talaga yung economic dominance of policy making. Kasi nga, may number ka, so madali siyang mag-decide. No? But then, I agree with Dr. Jeff that it mutes many voices. Kasi ang doon, paano na yun yung domestic violence? Ang sakit-sakit sa akin, ganyan. Pero hindi yun na sa figures. At saka yung economic, anong economic analysis dun sa physical, emotional violence? No? So parang ganon. But we are evolving. Yung field is evolving. And we have many, parang disciples of public policy who are more progressive and innovative and creative. And who would want to make a difference in the reforms and changes in the society. So, tuwan-tuwa ako dito sa collective community dito kasi marami tayong magagawa kasi we are collectively for good reforms for our country.
Thank you, Dean Fe. Salamat po sa comment. Kaya talaga yung pinakamasakit na mangyari sa iyo, yung ikaw ay insignificant. Kahit statistically, no? Yung invisible ka talaga, hindi ka mabibilang, no? Yun, masakit ho yun, no? Masakit talaga yun. Pero yung emotions, mahirap talagang i-quantify, pati yun, no? But there are other fields that actually study affect and emotions that could serve as inputs also. There, Dr. John's doing that. So affect and emotions as inputs, as a way for policy analysis. Ken, you were raising your hand. Yeah.
So thank you po. Ang ganda po ng reflections na namin ko po natututunan. When may some reactions po dun sa how might we teach it, or at least how do we train, for example, in WeSolve, our fellows to do the type of policy analysis that we do. Yung una, we start with lived experience actually. Yun yung basis. The more passionate you feel about an issue, the more impossible it seems, the more you go into it. Nasta ka sa traffic ng 3 hours, nakita mo yung kuryente bill mo, sobrang mahal ng kuryente, na inanod yung bahay mo nung bagyo, the mas malalim yung tagos at yung hugot, mas dun ka pumunta. And then we encourage our fellows to do that. Then we help them investigate the systems and policies and budgets. We discover the good case studies. Saan ba yung mga sobrang galing, zero casualty, tas ang galing-galing nila sa disaster preparedness, or ang ayos-ayos ng Iloilo, paano nila nagawa yung yung esplanade nila. Then we understand the bad. And then we try our best to really work across sectors. And this is where I think the wisdom of the community comes in. Na we come into it, and then there's a positioning where, just because you graduated from this course, mas magaling ka sa mga taong pinaglilingkuran mo, hindi ganun eh. And I think the positioning is that we are not above, but we are beside people. We are journeying with people, and that should be the attitude towards engaging in proper policy analysis na talagang may context at may pusong Pinoy. Baka pag pinuntahan ka ng isang nanay, nagkwentuhan lang kayo na parang nagchismisan lang kayo dyan sa kanto, policy analysis yan. Chismis is data, correct. And then, just second in terms of opportunities, I think we've done a lot in terms of the formal public spaces in siguro local development councils, things like that. I'm also curious to learn about how policy propagates in political campaigns. And I'm curious because this is part of the spaces that we're opening up in things like mobility. So for example, since sa Pilipinas yung context we have weak political parties, and we don't know whether policies will be continued after next term. Diba yung nangyayari nga? Pag wala na si Mayor, diba, tanggal. Ngayon, ligwak lahat ng mga projects niya. Diba? But an interesting counterbalance to that chaos, sometimes chaos is good, but not this type of chaos, is how can we build those good communities of practice so that we are able to continue good policies and prevent bad policies. A specific example, and then a barrier, and then a way that maybe we can work together. So I'm a member of Mayor Lenny's transition committee. So I'm in charge of her outcomes-based budgeting reforms. Yung sobrang hirap gawin ay intindihin yung outcomes at the city level. Kasi we have a lot of provincial level data sets. Sometimes we have city level data sets. Pero in crafting the policies, even for a progressive leader like Mayor Lenny, it's still so hard. Ang nipis nung datos at the city level. But there are actually a lot of existing data sets na kaya nating ma-maximize, the LHSIS of Department of Health, but it's published in a PDF. Or the procurement data of PhilJeps, but now that we've opened them, the school level data of learning outcomes, nalaman namin na below national average pala yung Naga sa numeracy. Diba? Sa yung reaction niya nung brief ko siya about it, oh my God, hindi pwedeng ganito. So if we are able to build and also hindi lang enter into that space and wait until we're invited, we really push for that space. Diba? We can maybe influence those campaigns, especially as we look towards 2028. So the collaboration proposal is imagine an website, di ko alam, parang platform where all of these local data in different parang economic, kung ano pa yan, health pa yan, social, population, makakatulong talaga siya sa mga local leaders natin and even the people who want to run and beat political dynasties, ganyan. Dapat sila yung mga tinutulungan natin eh. And I hope we're able to build that. I hope we're able to fund it because we know where the data is. We know how to make it happen. We just, I think, need to make it. We just need to form the team and make it work. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Okay. I think we're good. So once again, a round of applause for our presenters, Dr. John, Dr. Jeff, and then our panelists, Ken, Dr. Sir Randy, and Dr. Basilio. Okay.